I thought it was very interesting about ideologies. However, I thought it was quite hard to write an essay about it. So eventually I decided to talk.
You have to sit up front, not in the back. Okay, go ahead.
So I decided to talk about the different words that were used. As you might have read, there were like some really, I think, strange terms that were used for the same thing, and I thought that was really suitable to they really showed the ideologies. So I wrote about that. That's basically it.
Okay, that's fine. So basically, chapter 1 is all about symbolic representation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The idea is that symbols, languages are very powerful. They push a certain ideology. Okay? And then, so that actually goes to my the first thing I wanted to mention in my lecture. Okay. And so, for example, what are some key terms used to describe these women? Okay, the most common term is comfort woman, right?
Yeah, that's why.
Right. The most common term is comfort woman, but then that's like the kind of like the middle neutral term. And who uses the term prostitutes?
Europeans.
Well, in this controversy, people who use the term prostitutes tend to be like who? According to Sarah Sell, it tends to be people like kind of like many like Japanese nationalists, right? Because the term prostitute implies what? That the woman is a
kind of slave?
No, it's like the woman is a voluntary sex worker.
Yeah, it's
Right. And so we talked about this, right? That's why like many of the activists for the Japanese comfort women, they call the women, like the Migun Myanmar, right? The American comfort women. They don't like the term American comfort women. They just call them prostitutes because they think the women who work for the American army were volunteers. The women who work for the Japanese army were slaves. Okay? So, anyway, so prostitutes imply a degree of, this degree of free choice, whereas sexual slavery implies what?
well, definitely not a free choice.
Yes, no choice. Okay. So language matters a lot. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. One thing that you wrote is that I don't believe it's fair to. Can you read the sentence for me personally?
I don't believe it is fair to describe a variation of experiences and circumstances as one and the same thing.
Right. So you're saying that so the women who are comfort women had a variety of experiences and situations.
Yes.
So you don't think it's fair to call them one thing.
Yeah.
So what would you call them then?
Yes, I got a point, but I just meant it more that there has to be more attention for the different kinds of stories, and it's not just comfort women or pie or whatever they are called, because every woman has completely different experience, and they might see themselves completely different. So I think it's really unfair. It's like, for example, when you have the army and all the people who are anonymous get a grave, right? At least they have a grave. But still they are so anonymous, and I think that's really painful. That's at least why they get a grave, so there's a place where people can go to, so it's less anonymous. For me, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, it's with everything almost. I mean, just foreigners, so.
Anyway, but for now, comfort woman is considered like part of the most neutral term.
Yes,
Right.
yeah. But that's why I also used it in the article
Right,
itself.
okay.
Yeah, it was more like, if you compare it to the other words, because the whole chapter was about the ideologies in combination with those words.
Right, and that's the term that Sarah Sell used.
Yeah.
Because she thinks it's the most neutral term,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like activists tend to use like sexual slavery or prostitutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And those are more loaded terms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she argues that those loaded terms, slavery or prostitutes, they don't really capture the full range of the people's experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And then the second point you made was that, you're saying that this term describes the mostly forced, prostituted women and girls.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify, because this term, like mostly forced,
Mm-hmm.
is a contested statement, okay? Because we don't exactly know how many were forced
Okay.
and who forced them,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is actually a big debate, okay?
Mhm.
So I wanted to kind of go back to my
Yeah,
lecture.
that's why I just mentioned it like this, because otherwise.
So you can sit down or stand. It's up to you. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Oh, thank you, Milo. Yay! She wants to sit down. Okay. On that note, I wanted to go over a couple of points, which is that, well, we talked about language and symbols, right? And the second thing is this patriarchal notion of female sexuality. Okay. Maybe I should write female sexuality. And so in the very like Confucian societies like Korea and Japan, women are seen in terms, it's kind of dichotomous, you know, black and white, right? Either they're pure women are what? They're sexually active or not active? Not active, right? So either you're pure asexual virgins or like harmonies, okay? Or you're dirty and you're sexually active, okay? And then what were some terms used to describe the sexually active woman? Terms like what? Come on, you read the chapter, right? What's the P word? Yeah, well, P, okay. I mean, you know, right? It doesn't make sense. I would use like N word, F, okay. Well, you get the idea, right? It's also pronounced P, P-I. Okay, it's not pi, it's P, okay? And it's considered a very bad term. What's the Korean term? Korean terms and Japanese terms are very similar, right? P? P? 한국어는 뭐예요? You know, like bad word for that 여자 private part. Maybe you're both so pure, okay? I need to find some impure guys to tell me what is a bad term, okay? So anyway, the Japanese term is P, okay? There's also they also call them like 교도, 벤조, public toilet. 한국어는 뭐지? Right. 한국어는 뭐지? Public toilet, 벤조? Oh, 변소. Maybe it's 변소. How about what's 교도 mean? 교도는 몰라? Okay. Anyway, because what? Because 80% of Japanese and Korean words are similar because they come from the same 한자, Chinese characters. Okay? So benjo for Japanese is a 변소. 변소 is a Korean word, right? For 화장실. Okay. And so it's kind of like black and white, pure, impure. There's no term for somebody who is sexually independent. Okay? That I am sexually active, I'm independent, and it's my free choice. So we don't have terms for that. At least in the Korean context, Korean Japanese context. Okay. Okay. And then do you still see this today in Korea that women are seen as either pure or not pure? 좀 그런 거 생각 좀 있는 것 같아. It has changed in how. So women can be sexually active, and that's okay. Okay. All right. Can you give this to her? All right. What's your name? You have a visitor.
My name is Chuha, and first of all, lots of Korean people think, well, not comfort women, but the sexual slaves would be more proper for us because
More proper term.
yeah, more proper term. So then before that, after then, lots of people think like they did such things by some other forces. So they do not consider about whether they are pure or not, but they are very kind of scapegoat by the war and strong forces like any other armies. So
Right, but then the reason why I use those terms like pure and not pure is because the dominant paradigm, which we're going to discuss, is that these were pure women who are like enslaved. Do you see? And so the dominant paradigm is that these were pure women, virgins who were like kidnapped and made dirty, by the Japanese. And that's why we want, that's why we're asking for like apology and reparations. Okay? because they're using this concept of pure and impure. Okay, and and my question to you is, do people still think in terms of those concepts today? That women are either pure or not pure? Okay, because I think in the West we go beyond that dichotomy, right? That it's not just, do you like glorify virgin women these days? Is virginity a great thing? Okay, no, because why? Okay, well, you don't know what you're doing, okay? And also, well, I guess also this notion of like personal knowledge, personal empowerment, personal experience. Okay? And so,
Sleep. That's a classic example. Everybody knows that. It's like the slut and the player. So that's no. But it's not. That's also not black and white. It's like it's not that. Oh, everybody love virgins, but it's not like people are like, yay, you slept with 100 persons. You're a great woman. So it's not that black and white either.
in moderation.
Yeah.
Okay. And so from a Western concept, having no sexual experience is not necessarily considered a great thing. Okay? That maybe having at least some experiences, or at least one or two, is considered part of life. Okay? Part of experiencing life. And so somebody who has no experience that's actually considered kind of a negative thing.
When you ask why don't you have what is wrong with you?
Okay, what's wrong with you that you're a virgin?
Yes or no?
Okay. Why? Because did anyone say that to you? What's wrong with you? Okay. Because you look so pure. Yes. Okay. All right. Now, moving on. So the paradigmatic story. What does the paradigm mean? Paradigm means is the big or dominant or weak. Yeah, paradigm means dominant story, right? So the dominant story is a sexual slavery narrative, that these were pure women, virgins who were made impure. Okay, and this was illustrated. This was pushed by the Kumaraswamy report from the United Nations. Okay, but So claims that this dominant narrative homogenizes a more complex reality. That yes, some were forcibly taken and treated badly, such as the Dutch woman, Jan Ruff Orhan, but others were not. And then we can discuss this report in a more critical way, because there are two problems. Okay, what is the first problem? Did anyone read the chapter? Okay. The first problem is that some of the sources are what? Like when you write essays, I'm always asking you to find sources, get citations, right? But right, that some of the stories were maybe not so factual. Maybe those are more like imagination.
In one of those stories, it was based on some it was based on some there was some of those how do you call them, the religious, Korean, the beliefs thing, and when they no, not missionaries, about the traditional ones. I don't know how to say.
Like shaman?
Yeah, about the shamanism. There was a lot of
Okay.
a lot of like shamanism stories and everything. That it was actually not so much about the issue itself. That it had some other stories which were actually like more, maybe even more important in the book than
Okay.
the issue itself.
Anyway, so there are many kinds of stories, and some of them are not so factual. Okay. The problem is that some of the activists, they actually lied. Okay, and because some of the sources lied, there's some Japanese who thinks everybody lied. Okay. A key question is, were Korean women forcibly taken by Japanese soldiers? This is a critical question, right? And if you go to like the Comfort Women Museum, they're going to show you this like animation video that shows women being kidnapped by Japanese soldiers. Okay. And then, because there was this guy named Yoshida who confessed to like kidnapping like 1,000 Korean women in Jeju Island, But then later it was found that this was not this was not truthful. And so the Comfort Woman was actually written about early 2000s. This came out this year, so I'm linking it to current events. Okay, so let's get a volunteer to practice their English. Who can read this? Okay. Oh, maybe our new visitor from Germany. Yes. Can you give her the mic? Okay. What's your name?
My name's Jody.
Okay, Jody.
Thank you.
Where are you from? Well, what city?
It's near Hanover. It's a small town called Nienburg.
Okay, great. Sure. You don't have to elaborate. Anyway, so the Japanese government?
The Japanese government asked for a partial revision of a 1996 report on wartime comfort women by a United Nations Special Rapporteur. But the request was immediately rejected. About 300 words in the report are devoted to Yoshida. The report states that he confesses to having been part of slave raids in which, among other Koreans, as many as 1,000 women were obtained from comfort women. Duties under the National Labor Service Association.
Stop. So do you see? So this famous report spent 300 words citing this one guy, Yoshida, who says I kidnapped 1,000 Korean women, right? And then later it was found out that it wasn't true, because later the newspaper Asahi Shimbun sent investigators to Jeju Island, and nobody could confirm his story. But that's why it's very important when you guys write essays to cite credible sources. Okay? Remember we talked about this last time, right? Somebody cited like Sarah Palin, all these right-wing Republicans who wrote all these crazy things about China and North Korea. Okay? That's not credible. And if you cite those uncredible sources, you sound uncredible. Okay? And so the Japanese government this year asked the United Nations to revise the report. And because Yoshida was uncredible, it makes the entire United Nations look uncredible. Okay? And also in terms of what actually happened, Asahi Shimbun is like the liberal Japanese newspaper, and they decided to investigate this further. Okay? Can I get another volunteer? Okay. Who hasn't spoken a lot recently? Did you speak a lot? Are you volunteered? Oh, you're a volunteer today, right? Let's give it to the next person. Yes. No, go. You can speak, right? Because she's my volunteer. I think you're volunteering today. Okay. Next. No, according to, can you read this for me? No.
No official documents were found that directly showed forcible taking away by the military on the Korean Peninsula and Taiwan, where the people living there were made subjects of the Japanese Empire under Japanese colonial rule. Prostitution agents were prevalent due to the poverty and patriarchal family system. For that reason, even if the military was not directly involved, it is said it was possible to gather many women through such methods as work-related scams and human trafficking. On the other hand, in areas under occupation by the Japanese military such as Indonesia and China, entries in documents related to war crimes trials by the Allied forces included testimonies that showed local women being forcibly taken away by soldiers and made comfort women. In Indonesia, Dutch women living there were also made comfort women.
Right, do you see? So now the facts are more clear, okay? That in the places like places like Indonesia, China, you had clear evidence that some soldiers forcibly took women to be comfort women. But in Korea, you don't have that concrete evidence yet. Okay? And the evidence that we did have, such as Yoshida, is no longer credible. Okay. That's number one, citing uncredible sources. The second problem is that the Kuros-Maswamy report based on recommendations that undermine political support. One of the recommendations was to discuss comfort women in the history textbooks for middle and high schools. Okay? But this caused a huge nationalist backlash. Okay? Why we're discussing comfort women in history textbooks why would that make nationalists very angry? Because why? Okay. Well, the idea is that if I'm the idea is that like if I'm a nationalist, okay, I want what? Oh, Japanese nationalists. Okay, they're nationalists. So this made many nationalists in Japan very angry. Okay. Why? If you're like a Japanese nationalist, why would you be angry if the United Nations asks you to discuss comfort women in the textbooks, history textbooks? Because right, and also they think that maybe it's okay for like professors and academics and even college students to talk about sexual violence. But if you're in middle school, and especially middle school, you should be learning about what? You should be learning about why you should be proud of your country. You see? So from the nationalist perspective, these are just middle school students, right? They're just like 12, 13, okay? They shouldn't even be learning about sex anyway, okay? At that young age, they should be learning why they should be what? Good citizens, of Japan. Do you see? And so, this is a Japanese nationalist point of view. That's their claim, okay? And then I want you to like critique that claim. Imagine you're a Korean nationalist, right? And imagine the United Nations said that, well, during the Vietnam War, the Korean army did what? They went out and did a lot of bad things, such as what? Come on, did you read Sarah So? Okay. Well, they did some good things, right? They defended South Vietnam, but they also did bad things like, like what? Yeah, they killed and, they committed sexual violence on many women, and many women became pregnant, okay, forcibly. Did you learn that in your middle school textbook? Yes or no? Okay, then where did you learn this? Okay, but it wasn't in your middle school textbook, right? Was it in your middle school textbook? No. Why not? Would it be a good idea to put that in your middle school textbook or no?
Prepared for such topic.
Okay, so then maybe some of you are okay, you're mature, but then go on. Some people may what?
They might be not just mentally prepared for such topics. Like they might be just too young to talk about those things.
Right. They might be like too sensitive.
Yeah.
Especially for middle school.
I mean, like high school would be okay, I think, but middle school is quite early.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you think high school? Okay. Yes. Yes. Get the mic. Ask the question.
I have a question regarding the Korean soldiers who were back in the days in Vietnam. Like, the Korean soldiers who committed crimes, were they ever, did they ever got a penalty for it?
Persecuted?
Yeah, persecuted.
Pretty much. I don't think so. Right. Because I don't think those are very clear chains of command. And also, anything that happened, I think, was kind of like covered up. Because during the 70s, you had very strong Korean nationalism. So army was considered what, good or bad? The army was considered very good. Right, very good. Okay. Well, because I guess from the nationalist point of view, we're still in a state of war with North Korea. So North Korea is bad, South Korea is good. Okay. So you don't want to publicize anything that makes South Korea look bad. And so a lot of these things were kind of covered up. And I think even today, I don't think the history textbooks really discuss that. World War II was 20th century, 1945. Right. Okay.
we didn't learn much about Vietnam War because it was quite comparatively recent history. Therefore, usually recent history is concluded in high school and more academical history part in Korea. So yeah, because it is really recent source, so it's really hard to figure and define it is very good or not.
So it's
Yeah,
like controversial.
yeah. So yeah, so therefore, I had lots of chance to deal with such Korean military's bad things or historically very bad things of recent Korea from when I entered high school and university. So I think that's why lots of Korean didn't learn much about Vietnam War. However, they really know lots of factors about like this comfort women or about World War One and Two. That's why I think.
So just because of different timing.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so it's not because of bias.
Yeah, because between two big wars, there was Korean nations built, so it's kind of really well important factor for Korean history. So
Okay, that's
yeah.
fine. Oh, yeah.
In the Netherlands, we learn about World War, the Cold War, and we learn about the Second World War, of course. But we also learn about the Vietnam War, which
When middle school or high school?
middle.
Middle school.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Which high school you're in? Middle school.
really, because okay,
We,
Give her the mic.
you didn't have it.
Maybe you went to a
it really depends on, I think, on which high school you're in, and because the schools, as far as I know, can choose at least in middle school which topic they cover. So they pick a few topics which think are interesting. So, for example, for history, I do not really remember, to be honest. But for geography, we talked about Aboriginals, which live in Australia. But why would you learn about that? Well, it's very interesting, and you can know more about it, but it's not really that helpful maybe to your national history or geography. But that's not really the case. So you learn, for example, about those things, but I learned on other things. And during high school, then it's everywhere the same. So we are the same year, so we learn about the same things, but every few years a difference. So in the end, we have like a generation of say 10 years, and then we have covered all history. Yeah, or worse.
It's actually two separate questions. Sky, right? Sky's first question is, when if soldiers commit sexual crimes, were they persecuted? And then until the 1980s, for the most part, no. So I don't think many Korean soldiers were persecuted for what they did in Vietnam. And also, if you read Sarah Sell, what did American soldiers do when they invaded Japan? I think there were, maybe this is in the later chapter, but they committed like hundreds of sexual violence basically every day. Okay, every day. And none of them, to my knowledge, were persecuted. Okay, saying what? Okay, right, Russia. Yes. Okay, Sky, hand over the mic. Okay. So the first topic we're going to address is prosecuting soldiers, and the second question is, when did you learn about this in school, and when should you learn about it? Okay. So you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in war, like, it's a little bit different than in not war times. Like, I mean, crimes that are committed during war, like sometimes, well, you can't prosecute everybody for what they did during war times, because it's like, it's not like everything goes, but it's war. Like, people do horrible things during wars. So
right. That's actually the old dominant paradigm. Okay. So the dominant paradigm, just before the 1970s, was exactly what.
But yeah, but I can give you an example for this. For instance, if you look at Germany, and then the Second World War, and if you would want to prosecute everybody who did something wrong, like that's not lawful, something horrible, right? If you wanted to prosecute everybody, then, you would have theoretically have to prosecute 3/4 of the whole population. Like, so how are you going to do that? You need these people to run the country. Like,
I know, that's a fair point. My only point that I'm saying is that if you read the chapter 1, there was a mental switch. Okay? In the old days, people thought, sexual violence against women is terrible. But it's just part of war. It happens in every war. Okay? Violence against women. But in the 80s and especially 1990s, you had this World Women's Conference, right? And so in the 90s, you had this switch that sexual violence against women is now considered considered a war crime. Okay? And if you do it, then you should be prosecuted.
yes, of
And
course.
so since the 90s, you had this mental switch, and this is why the comfort women issue has been politicized. Okay? Because back then this was considered normal, and now it's been elevated to a war crime. And so that's why a lot of Japanese nationalists feel like I've been kind of singled out. Okay? So what we did, it was terrible, but this was what all nations did back then. I'm not saying this is what I think. Okay? I'm just saying from their perspective, we did what every other nation did, and we actually instituted a comfort women system to reduce sexual violence on the civilian population. But now they're like blaming us, okay, from the Japanese nationalist perspective. Okay? And then
It does
but-
make sense, though, a little bit.
but
No, it doesn't.
anyway, but since the 1990s, I'm talking, okay? I know you have the mic, but my mic's bigger than yours, okay? Symbolism, okay. All right. Since the 1990s, things that were considered acceptable are no longer considered acceptable, and many activists are going back to history to re-persecute those people, okay? And then one example, like here in Korea, American soldiers committed many bad things, which were considered a natural part of war. But today, now activists are saying we need to persecute them. You know that, right? I think a famous example is what Nogonri. 들어봤지? So there was a massacre, American army soldiers, they killed a lot of Koreans, and now a lot of activists are saying we need, that happened 50 years ago, but we need to publicize it and persecute them, prosecute them. At least we finally want justice. Okay, but that's been a recent switch since the 1990s. Okay, and then we can have a big debate whether we can prosecute what happened a long time ago. Okay, the second question is when should we whether and when we should teach it in the schools. Okay, so I think Sky said, oh, I learned all this in middle school. Okay, you went to you're Charnasa. Okay, it's good for you, high status. Okay, you
Good for you.
High status, So Charnasa, Charnasa means you're born well. Okay, you're elite. You went to this elite middle school that taught you everything. Okay, but then other people, they didn't learn that in middle school. Okay, maybe it wasn't considered appropriate. Okay. How about in Germany, Patrick? Did you learn everything bad that your country did in middle school?
Oh, yes.
I was in the U.S. Oh, so you're scared.
Well, we were in Germany.
You learned everything bad? When did you learn that?
Very. I'm sorry. I don't know. Is it elementary school? Grundschule? Yeah, you don't really hear the end of it because it's really important that everybody in Germany knows about the past, especially because it's so bad. And I think it's quite good to prevent it from happening again and just showing, look, that was completely wrong.
So that's a German perspective. That's one end. And then there's another perspective, such as I think Germany is kind of like an outlier. Most countries, they don't want to focus on teaching their children why their country is so bad. They want to first focus on teaching their children why they should love their country, be proud of their country, and fight for their country. Okay? And so I think when I went to elementary school in Korea, that's something that teachers really emphasize, and we should be proud of Korea. Okay? And then when I was in California, the depends on the school, but most California schools try to emphasize that America is a good country. We should fight for our country. Okay. But depending on the teacher, some teachers emphasize that Americans did a lot of bad things. Okay. But some teachers emphasize that Americans did a lot of good things. Okay. I think in Korea though, it's more I think Korean schools, especially middle school, they focus more on that we're a good country. We don't do bad things. Yes? You want to share your Polish experience?
No, but just my opinion. I think that while teaching children that their country is a good country in general, and making children love their own country, it is not a big problem to just say that we did some mistakes, that we did something wrong. It's not gonna change them. It's not gonna they're not gonna respect their own country, but it's just to mention that we made a mistake, right? Because everybody can make a mistake. It doesn't make you a bad person. Everybody does a mistake, and every state probably made some mistakes. So the thing is that they are aware of that. So later, if they meet people from those countries, it's kind of like you have kind of understanding for each other. It's not my experience. It's just what I think.
Like war is a very dirty industry. So American soldiers did their bad stuff in Vietnam back in the days during the Vietnam War. But I know that a lot of soldiers who did sexual crimes, for example, they got prosecuted for it. So also to retort to what Emily just stated, I think as a nation or as a people, if you genuinely acknowledge for what you did and apologize for it, for what Germany did, and if Japan also will do that, then I think you will become, or you will take or make a step towards becoming a better nation. Let me put it like that.
That's fine. But when you went to Poland, you try to learn all your past, better minorities, or they didn't teach that?
Well, it's not about experience or opinions. So So it's not like the country did make bad mistakes. It's like even for how the Netherlands became finally the Netherlands. It's like, oh, this party did like did, and he died, and they died, and oh, this party did like this. It's not like they were really bad, and they did like this. At least that's my experience.
You just asked about the Netherlands before, right? And I've been observing that in the Netherlands, how they kind of totally. Obviously not intellectual people, they know about these things because they'll inform themselves about stuff, right? I'm sure you know about stuff, and I'm sure you know about stuff too, but it's not I don't feel like it's being taught for instance, what the Dutch did to the Indonesians, for instance. They did so many horrible things, and they just overfly the topic real quick, and they don't really go into it in depth. And if you look on TV, for instance, TV programs, they always talk about, you always see, it's like Second World War History Channel, basically. It's on TV all the time, but it's never about, what did the Dutch do to the Indonesians, or, what did the Dutch do to the Africans, or what did the... Yeah, but... Yeah, and but even the Indonesians, when they're they have some friends in the Netherlands. Obviously they consider themselves Dutch, but they have Indonesian history, and they've told me some things about their history and with the Netherlands, and I never saw this information anywhere ever in the Netherlands, not at university, not at any cultural information evenings or anything and also that they had camps with Indonesian people in the Netherlands, that they stuffed them in there and they were living really poorly and everything, and then how some of them they disconnected them to their own country, so now they don't feel that they have a connection to their roots and stuff, and they left the country in poverty. Yes, I'm telling you, if you're an educated Dutch person, you know these things, obviously. But there's a bunch of people that really don't care. Like, obviously. Obviously.
Okay, we need to move on. I still want to do the Dutch presentation later. So I think one of the lessons from the chapters is that if you really want, we talked about cosmopolitanism, right? Like human rights, liberalism. That if you really want to promote like truth and justice, then you have to build up credible, trustworthy institutions. So in the past, like liberal-minded, like the United Nations, Asahi Shimbun, had credibility among most Japanese. Okay, people thought United Nations we can trust, we can believe. Okay, but in 2004, but in 2014, the credibility of UN and the Asahi Shimbun was severely damaged for relying on dubious sources, especially this Yoshida guy. Okay, and so you have to, so if you're like a liberal-minded person, you need to develop a reputation for objective and comprehensive search for truth, not for ideological or nationalist goals. And you have to develop practical ways to educate the public. Okay, so I think that's one lesson that I got from reading the chapters. Okay, and then maybe in your small teams you can discuss what are the lessons that you learned. Okay, all right. We need to move to Nydia's paper. Nydia, you want to add to our discussion? You're so quiet. Okay, oh, come on. Okay, what are your thoughts? You're from Hong Kong?
Indonesia, but I'm studying in Singapore.
Oh, okay. So do you hate Netherlands now? Okay.
No, actually it's fine because even though
Okay.
Netherlands invaded Indonesia, right?
Right.
Japan did much worse within 3 years, even though Dutch only invaded Indonesia for 300 years. But Japan did much worse within short period of time.
That's true. And then, like I think every country has a mixed history, and the Malays, they did a lot of bad things to the Chinese and vice versa. Yeah. So anyway, so nobody's hand is clean. Okay. So what was the most interesting claim from your paper? So your question is, would there ever be a converged perspective?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my topic is, will there ever be a converged comfort women perspective between the South Korea and Japan? Then this essay generally discusses the possibility for Japan and South Korea to have a converged perspective on the comfort women issue in the near future. Then for the first paragraph, I talk about how South Koreans generally have a unified story about the comfort women issue. But for Japan, the problem is that even the people don't trust the government after the war, because after the Japanese war, the Japanese themselves were being tortured, and then there is a distrust of the people towards the government. Public distrust of the state and the Japanese military is the key element of post-war Japanese identity. And also, right, for me, because there is such a divided viewpoint between the government and the public, it is important for them to settle the problem internally first, then try to convince the South Korean about the comfort women issue.
Sure. So you have to first try to you're saying we need to first find the consensus among the Japanese,
Right.
and then dialogue with the Koreans. Okay. So she's saying don't bother the Japanese. They need to find their own consensus. Are you saying that? Okay. Maybe one way is that.
No, because sorry.
Yeah.
Because they also want to tighten their bilateral relation, right? So they are trying to have a lot of formal talks to convince each other whose stories are more accurate. That's why Japanese must speed up this process first, then discuss with the South Koreans to convince them.
Right. Did you hear Nydia's claim? Nydia's claim is that people in a country, you cannot get outsiders to tell the people of a country what to believe. okay, that that every nation has to decide for themselves, okay, what are true, what are, what we should do, okay. But can outsiders play a? Do you think outsiders can play maybe some positive role?
Definitely, but in case of Japan, I think it's a bit different because Japan's government is comprises of conservative political elites, and their collective identity has been based on racial superiority and occupy. So what this means is that the Japanese believes that they are more superior as compared to the other countries, and they have a basis to invade other Asian nations. That's why, because of that historical background, it's hard for international organizations to try convince the Japanese government because they also have governmental propaganda in Japan itself.
You kind of have two separate claims. One is that a nation has to form their own consensus,
Right.
and then your second claim is that Japan's like messed up. There's this like, conservative political elite or like racist.
So what I was talking about for my first paragraph is Japan being a conservative country, and there is a divided viewpoint. And then at the conclusion, I come up with the suggestion that Japan should solve it within themselves first. After that, discuss with South Korea.
Okay, but you might want to revise because I don't think all like I don't know how many Japanese nationalists are like racist or consider like the Japanese race to be like better than everybody, because because there are different kinds of nationalism, right? There's a racial nationalism, like Hitler, okay, but then there's also like the civic nationalism, right? Which is that yes, I love Japan, but anybody can become Japanese, okay? It's kind of like this multi-ethnic Japanese perspective. What's your name? You're from Japan. What's your name? Hado. You love Japan? Yes. You hate Korea? No. Okay. So that's your counterexample. That you can love Japan, you can be a Japanese nationalist, but you can. It doesn't mean But it doesn't mean that you hate other countries. I can love all countries. He's like a polygamous nationalist. Okay. All right.
But is it true that the people have distrust? I mean, like, I'm not asking whether
Okay.
it is true.
Hado, can you come up here? She's gonna interview you.
No, I just want to know whether it's true that the people, after war, they don't really trust the government
Because of the military. Because of the World War II. Do you think many Japanese would not trust the government? Would not trust the army?
after the war.
After the war?
After
World War II.
Japanese people don't trust
Right, the government.
government.
Or do Japanese people trust the government? Love the government? Do you trust the government? No. Okay.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
how come you don't trust the government?
So I think I hate Japanese systems and so people Korea is so like the U.S. so every citizen don't vote.
Every citizen vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't change.
Okay. But Japan is what? How come you don't like Japan?
Or like same so
Okay. It's too much hierarchy? Okay. He's saying that, I think Taro was trying to say that Japan is kind of a stratified society. And so, no, he's saying that Japan is more like England.
yeah.
I don't see that. How?
I don't know so but yeah.
I know, but it still is the same thing as Sweden. Nobody cares about it, but it's still like
Oh, you still have a
hierarchical
monarchy.
system. Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they have. It's respectful. Yeah. Yeah.
can help. Let's not talk about the. We're kind of going back. Yeah. You don't have the mic. Taro has a mic. Okay. No, you don't. Wait. I want to ask you a question. Okay. Monarchy is not that important. The question is, how can we dialogue? How can we dialogue with Japanese nationalists or any nationalists to promote this kind of, to promote this kind of political compromise? Okay, justice. Okay, because right now we want justice for women who suffered during the war, right? And to do that, we need the support of nationalists, people who love Japan. Okay, because we don't want. I think oftentimes, or like Korean nationalists think that Japanese nationalists are the enemy. Okay, but Taro is saying that, well, maybe I can be nationalist, I can love my country, but I can also love other countries. Okay, so you have to find a way that we can promote justice. Okay, while at the same time not denigrating, not saying bad things about your country. Okay, I think maybe one way is to get other people to buy the Comfort Woman book. Okay, because did you think the Comfort Woman book was very balanced? Right, and I think this is a kind of book that would appeal to many like open-minded people in both Korea and Japan. Okay, so I think if you had more good scholars and more good books like the Comfort Woman, that you can actually build some kind of common ground and communication between Japanese and Korean nationalists. Okay, so that way we can form that kind of consensus. So maybe something that outsiders can do is, instead of doing like what the student last time said, like futile provocations like Comfort Woman statues, that we can promote more good scholarship like this book and share it. Okay. So, okay. Thank you, Nydia. Yay. Anyway, that's Nydia's claim. All right. All right. Now, before we go to the Dutch, okay, tomorrow we do what? We have our field trip to the Comfort Woman Museum. You're welcome to come. Okay. And they're all waiting for you. I think maybe there might be a couple of harmonies there, you can actually talk to. Okay, so I think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually go to the Comfort Woman Museum, meet the real Comfort Women. Okay, so bring Mon Ochuna. Who's my organizer? Okay, maybe she's sick. Okay. She will meet you at Hanyang Plaza at 11:20. You have to bring how much money? 15,000. Okay, 10,000 for the bus, 5,000 for the museum. Okay, come on, don't be cheap. All right, you can, I think it's a really good opportunity, and I give you a lot of extra participation credit. Okay, are you gonna go? No. Is anyone going? Are you gonna go? Who's going? Okay, all right. A lot of the international students are going. I want to, yeah. Right. Fine. Okay. So the bus will take you back to the Cheoncheok, to the Gangnam. Okay. And then you can do whatever. Okay. Shoot. I don't want you to go with empty hand. What's empty hand in Korean? Right. Everybody say Bin Song. Bin Song. That means empty hand. I don't want you to go with empty hand. So who's going? Can I get a volunteer to buy some? Pure. What do you say pure? Like those small oranges. Are you going fish? Yeah. He told me that, and I was like, from the heart. Just anyway. Somebody buy tangerines and I give you this money, okay? Okay, Sky, do you want to talk about the Netherlands now, or you guys too tired? Okay, all right, let's go. Ooh, you guys speaking Dutch? Ooh, so sexy. Okay. So we'll do a little bit in this class and then a little bit more in the other class. Okay? Because I think a lot of Korean students, they want to escape Korea. All right. Okay, you have the mic.
Thank you so much. Okay, good afternoon, class. As you can see today, we're going to present to you immigrating to the Netherlands. To my left, we have Sean from Germany, originally, and we have Milou from the Netherlands, and I'm Sian. I'm also from the Netherlands.
Alright, so tell us about Netherlands. It's so great. Positive.
We will.
Yeah, we will. It will follow. So this is a table of contents from what you can expect from our presentation. Firstly, we have the Netherlands, authorizations for temporary stay MVVs, civic integration, examination abroad, applying for a residence. Okay, cool. Okay, and now Milou will talk a bit about
tell you about the most exciting part of this presentation, of course. So why would you immigrate to the Netherlands? Because before they're going to tell you something about that, we need to know why. Well, everybody wants this, right? You're all smiling right now just because of all these flowers. No, but in the Netherlands, especially in the southern half of the Netherlands, this is big businesses. To be honest, most of them are for tourists. But we like them too, the tulips. And we have a lot of cows. Well, maybe you don't know us really for our farming industry, but when you drive all around the Netherlands, which is really small, you'll find these everywhere, always, which is actually kind of nice. You don't see this that much, but not at least you see that 1, 2, 3 in the same field. But sometimes nowadays you see them in the cities as well because they grow that much, and they're really nice for the view. And they actually made to help build our land, because 1/3 of the Netherlands is below sea level. Thanks to the mills, they provide us grain, but on the other hand, they also pump the water that at least we did not drown. And it's also similar to the consensus model that we use in our politics. This is the windmills are standing in the grass, which is called a polder, and that's also the model that we use, because we really had to work together. The farmers had to work together with the landlords, and everybody had to work together that our land did not drown or anything like that. So it was really important to negotiate and talk a lot with each other. And so in the Netherlands, we also have politics, a lot of different parties, but it's not like one party will always win. It's impossible. It always has to be, the answer is in the middle, and everybody has to, do not all agree with each other, but we have to compromise.
But
Yeah.
people love working together.
We would love to have an opinion
We're
and
working
to be
together.
another. Yeah, yeah, we're really a team, so to say, but that's also because of history, because we had to. And this is a nice view in Amsterdam. It's not only view. No, this is Groningen, by the way. Yes. Sorry. Yes, I see. Is this the pannenkoekenschap?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes, it's a really nice place to eat pancakes. And this is our church, which you can also see from my window. Anyway, why I was confused with Amsterdam is that most of the pictures they will show you are from Amsterdam, of course. Next to that, what you also want to mention is you see the ships, you see the houses here, and you see the canals. And mainly all big cities in the Netherlands, especially when they're the most older ones, like 3 centuries at least, they do not especially look like this because the tower is different, but they all will mainly have the same kind of view, which makes it really cozy and attractive for tourists as well. So, yes. And our No, because we're traded that good, because we're good in negotiations. Yes, we are. So that's also why we love cheese. When you live in the Netherlands, you will lunch with a bread, and one at least with cheese. The other one will be with peanut butter or hagelslag, which is kind of chocolate things.
Chocolate sprinkles.
Sprinkles, yes, that's the word. But cheese, that's how we survive. So that's one of the things, by the way, I miss here a little bit.
Cheese.
Yeah, but not American cheese. That's no cheese.
Good cheese.
Sorry. Yes, and this everybody always thinks from Belgium, and the small ones are of course from French. But dit is patat, and that is the best.
Belgian school.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It should be Dutch waffles.
And the Dutch have the best thing.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's for sure. Of course. Yeah. Especially after you're going out for a night and you need something. Really?
Yes, I just I didn't know that we could do like that. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I know it's in French a little bit more sour, but. And who does sour? Yeah. It's a pity that for the Koreans, you know, who's hitting? In soccer player, like 12 years ago. Yes. Yes. He was a Dutch guy too.
Robert?
Yeah.
No, I know. Robert is that one.
Robbe is from Beten. He's from he's from our province. Yes. He's from the part that we live to.
The team is so diverse. We even have ball guys.
What?
I'm saying the team is so diverse. We even have ball guys. It's a joke.
Oh, okay.
I never seen a ball soccer player.
He's very a cow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Have you ever seen? I never seen. Oh yeah.
Well, anyway, that's the Netherlands, and it's also a line just like Hainan.
The little.
Next to it, they will tell the very interesting, but maybe less exciting part.
Yeah.
Thank you, Milou. Now I would like to introduce you about like the paperwork and the bureaucracy and all kinds of stuff what you need to do in order to get to the Netherlands. So firstly, we have authorizations for temporary stay, MVVs. So most aliens from outside the European Union require a visa to enter the Netherlands. So those who wish to immigrate to the Netherlands require an authorization for temporary stay, MVV. And to qualify for an MVV, they must meet a number of conditions. If they wish to come here for family reunification, they must have a partner who can support them and who is a Dutch national or permanent resident of the Netherlands. And if they wish to study here, they must have the appropriate preparatory qualifications and be able to pay for their chosen course of study. And aliens who apply for an MVV or residence permit for employment, study, or family reunification must also pay a fee to cover the cost of processing their application. So secondly, we have civic integration and examination abroad. So immigrants who wish to come to the Netherlands for family reunifications must first take the civic integration examination abroad. Only then can they obtain an MVV. They require a basic knowledge of the Dutch language and Dutch society before they can settle in the Netherlands. This helps them integrate more quickly. So they can take this examination at the Dutch embassy or a Dutch consulate in their home country. They can prepare for the examination using the Na Nederland, so to the Netherlands home study package. Lastly, we have applying for a residence permit in the Netherlands. So as soon as an alien with an MVV has arrived in the Netherlands, they must apply for a residence permit for a limited period. To do so, they must show that they can support themselves, for instance, by producing an employment contract, produce a valid identity document such as a passport, or show that they have no criminal record. EU citizens do not require a residence permit. They can reside in the Netherlands under EU law. So, lastly, we have assessing applications for residence permits. The Immigration and Naturalization Service, IND, examines whether aliens meet all the requirements to obtain a residence permit. So within 6 months, they are informed whether they are entitled to a residence permit, and a residence permit is valid for 1 year and can be renewed. After 5 years, an immigrant can apply for a residence permit for an indefinite period, and immigrants whose applications are refused can object to the refusal or apply for a judicial review. And now I will give the word to Sean.
Okay, so here you talk about the MUD and the residence permit. So, but actually, like they just changed it like just recently, and they put the MUD and the residence permit together, so you don't have to actually apply for it separately anymore. So now it's called the toegang and verblijfs procedure, and it's all like in one step. So, you don't need to really do the MBD thing anymore. They do it for you when you do the residence permit thing. Okay, so you have short visits to the Netherlands. So, like you already said, so basically when you're from the European Union or from Switzerland or from that area, then you don't need a visa, and because that's just how it is in Europe, there's like free movement of labor and free, you can just, right? Then, yes, okay, so then you have like the same like what most of us from Europe had. Like we can come to Korea for 90 days and we don't need a visa, only if we want to stay longer. And it's the same for Hong Kong, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan. You can come to the Netherlands and stay there for 90 days. You can just fly there and it's fine. You don't need a visa or anything. Just you have to basically piss off again after 90 days. And all of these other countries, they are also all included in those 90-day visas. Of course you can. Of course you can. I'll just go. You know what? You can have my apartment. I'll stay with my boyfriend. And then we have like other countries, like all the other countries that weren't included in that list. You'll need short stay visas, tourist visas, business visas. And that's also, but it's the same if you want to stay longer than 90 days. Well, you don't need a short stay visa, but you need a business visa or whatever, a student from your university or whatever, for whatever reason you're in the country for longer than 90 days. So, living and working in the Netherlands. As I already said, Europeans and Swiss, like basically what we got to do is we register with the local municipality, with the gemeente, and that's like the city hall. And what you do there is like you get a burger service number, a BSN. That's like your your social security number, exactly. You get that, and without that you can't do nothing. Then you get a Dutch healthcare insurance if you work in the Netherlands. Oh, wait, whatever. Like, I don't know that. Okay. So if you don't get a Dutch healthcare insurance, which I didn't do after I started working there, and I thought, I didn't even know I have to do. Nobody informed me that I have to do that. So then I got a fine of about 250 euros for not having a Dutch healthcare insurance, even though I had a German one, which was way better. But nonetheless, I had to pay some money for that, and that was really, really not fun. And sometimes, that's really important. If you go to the Netherlands, and if you want to work in the Netherlands, always inform yourself by yourself, because don't expect anybody to tell you anything, because they will not do that, because maybe they can squeeze some more money out of you. So, now, if you're not from the Netherlands, if you're not from Europe, if you're from outside of Europe, so you need what I just said, like the TEV, the toegang and verblijfs procedure. Anyway, so that's including the work permit. Like I said, it's all like in one all in one thing now. It's the tewerkstellingsvergunning. The entry and residence procedure, actually you just explained that, like you need like an employer or a sponsor of some sort, so that could be your university if you're a student, for instance, that your university already does it for you, that you don't really have to do it. Like,
We're going to continue this in the next class. I think we have a lot of quiz services that have questions on this.
okay, but then the others won't get it.
And then, do we have time for just a couple of quick questions?
Q&A?
Yeah, just a couple of quick Q&A.
Sure.
Because the class is almost over.
Sure.
But it's not that much more.
It's okay.
Okay, it's okay. So whatever.
We all know you're enthusiastic.
I want to say the best for last.
But then the others didn't hear the beginning.
It's okay.
Is there any questions or comments?
English not included in this presentation, so I don't know.
Okay.
That's not the topic, sorry.
What kind of
Like if I may, yeah.
Oh, but like for those people that are going to leave, that's kind of really important to know. It's like if you're really good at what you're doing, right? All of this can be skipped. Like if you're like a high quality worker, and the country really wants to have you, all of this can be skipped by means of I was going to go through there, don't know the word, but if I see it on the slide, I remember.
what kind of workers do they want? Companies like high tech.
They want, of course, like the Netherlands is like a really small country, so like they base a lot of their GDP just comes from trade, right? Or like from business. Like this is a business country. So basically, what they need is people who can conduct business partners, people who can talk. They love people who can talk. Like then obviously like managers, stuff, these kind of people, and then
You contribute well.
then also, of course, they're really good at like the water thingy. How do you call these people that build those things and stuff?
Dijken?
Yeah, the people that build that. They're engineers.
Yeah, engineers.
Stuff like that. And then sorry.
And then knowing like different languages. are
The
very
languages,
important.
yeah, but
Yeah.
then on the other hand, the Dutch learn a lot of languages. So actually, if you come to the Netherlands, you can work in the Netherlands without knowing a word of Dutch. You can work with English. It's completely fine. If you're in a multinational, if you're in a big company like I don't know, like Heineken, Philips, something like that. If you're in one of those big companies, you do not need to. 5-year-olds in Holland speak English. 90-year-old people speak English. Like they speak English.
That's because no, that's because English is a part of our curriculum while going to school, while having the education. But to answer your question shortly, like the salary, it really depends. But for example, someone who has a degree from, for example, University of Applied Science, for example, IBMS, someone who studied IBMS before, International Business Management Studies, what I study, their income will be around, I think, 2,200 euros monthly. So yeah,
It depends.
it really depends though. It really depends.
I don't know if I would.
When you're starter,
Yeah, just when you're a starter, like yeah.
Not if you're coming there and you already have business, like you know stuff, and you've been in a big company somewhere else. It's like if you come from university in Holland and you start a job in Holland. But if you are like a businessman and you're coming to a big company, you're gonna get more, for sure.
Okay.